Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Africam show, proudly brought to you by explore.org. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and I'm going to be your host for the next 45 minutes of magical live wildlife. But isn't this wonderful? We've got, looks like some cranes in the foreground, and then some hippos all the way at the back. I'm playing the game of I'm completely useless at technology, and I want this to be my main my main camera. Okay, I'm gonna figure out how to do that. But of course, there are lots of you who are joining us live at the moment, which is wonderful. Welcome, welcome. I'll let a couple of those come through. Jack De Boer, welcome. Hello. You said a happy New Year to you too and everybody else. And then we've got Jambu Wantubalu. Hello, hello. Oh, Zygote. Sorry. Here we go. It's nice to hear from you once again as well. But let's let a couple more of those hellos and welcome backs from, well, last year. Feels like it was ages ago already. What is 2026? So I'm just trying to have a look and I'm just playing around very quickly. If I do that, aha, look at me, I'm magic. I know how to do all of this. I'm actually just trying to figure out where exactly we are. Um, I know we're in the basin somewhere, but there's so many new Africam cameras that have been added and I actually can't keep track, which is really exciting. Constantly bringing new wildlife from all over. I'm just having a technical difficulty. Please excuse me for. Hi, everybody. I'm so sorry I've gone radio silent there for a moment. That's what we like to say when we're on the game drive radio. I'm having some problems at the moment. Everything is pixelated. It's almost like I'm playing a game of Minecraft, which is a bit on the tricky side because I can't even tell you what cranes those are. I can't see any coloration on them. Even the hippos are looking quite interesting. So I'm just trying to figure this out on my side and where it is coming from. Okay, so it seems like there's not much that can be done. I'm just trying to help the tech team sort this out. Okay, I don't know if you can hear me now. I just quickly tried to restart my feed, but I'm not having too much on luck on my side. So I do apologize. This is not a great way to start 2026, but it could be some issues on my end. But we're currently in Botswana in Cylinder, an area of Bots that I actually haven't ever been to before. And it's high up on my list. I'm not sure if I'm going to get there this year, but this will be the closest that I'm happy to be at the moment. You're all going to have to please help me with the IDing of birds today. I don't think that that is on the cards for me. But it is nice to, of course, have a troop of chukma baboons just frolicking about in the water. And look how lovely, lush, and green everything is. Not gonna lie, the whole of the northeastern parts of South Africa are looking just as lush, which is great. We've had an exceptional amount of rainfall. Botswana has also had some great rainfall, and the animals are going to be so happy. Yep. Sorry, we've actually moved to a completely different camera. It might have happened while I was just trying to sort some things out on my side. Sorry, everyone. This is going really well today. Hey. Um, but we are looking at baboons. We're in Wangi in Zimbabwe, and Wangi is a place that I have in fact visited. It's a really beautiful area. I was quite surprised by it. I only popped down there for the first time last year. I don't know why it had evaded me for so long. And if you ever get the chance to visit, I highly recommend it. And the nice thing about this area is that you can go on safari and it can be a complete contrast going in the summer months versus when it is drier during winter. The colors are just absolutely gorgeous. But this family of baboons are just doing what baboons normally do. It is getting later into the afternoon. So they have been feeding for most of the day. Now they come down to have a bit of a drink of water, although there's no shortage of water around. And the great thing for these baboons at the moment is that they're able to change their diet quite a bit. And as you know, baboons are omnivores and they eat a little bit of everything. But I've gone walking through the grass a fair amount. And I cannot believe how many grasshoppers that we have had this year throughout Southern Africa. They are everywhere. So not only will the baboons be feeding on the lovely lush vegetation, some new flowers, and roots and well, just everything, I suppose, that's so delicious. There are some fruiting trees at the moment, none out here in the open. And those grasshoppers will be delicious. Everybody eats them, even us as people. Highly nutritious, full of protein. Jess is not normal. You said at least we get to watch the baby monkeys playing in the water while we wait. Jess, thank you so much, Jess, for looking at the bright side there. But now the baboons have moved out of the water and the marabou stalks. These ones I can identify quite easily. I think they could be even more pixelated than they currently are and you'd still be able to tell them apart. They are very easy to identify, beautiful, big, almost like a royal blue wing, although they do look more black than anything. But once you get up close, those enormous beaks, like someone has just attached a spear to the front of their face. And then just skulking about as normal. I mean, there's not many animals that skulk about. Hyenas do it, and then I would say marabou storks definitely one that you could uh, talk about it. Oh, Kwaru, hello, hello. You said that you've been helping. Thank you. Okay, what do we got here? I wish you could see the position that I am right now to try and figure out what these birds are. There's a flock of Egyptian geese moving along quite swiftly through the grass. They too will be enjoying the odd grasshopper, although they are predominantly grazers, which is nice. They don't need to venture too far away to feed. I feel like life is a little bit more relaxing, right? Because when you're not hangry with all this food around you, it does tend to be a bit easier. I know I overwhelm myself completely when I don't eat regularly enough. And then Laurel's 2319, you said, no worries, Taylor. It's just a Monday, Tuesday. It feels like a Monday. Yesterday I procrastinated. I refused to start work on a Monday. So maybe that's my own fault. But we're going to take a different route now. We're going to head across to the west in Namibia and see what the animals are up to at Safari Hook. Oh my goodness, isn't it nice to see some greenery here too? Now, everybody has the assumption that Namibia is just one big desert and it just stays dry and desolate for most of the year. But that's not always true. See, even the zebra agreed there. But what, Taylor? It also gets lovely and lush here, although it doesn't tend to last all the way through. But these lovely pockets of green are definitely welcome, but it'll be eaten quite quickly. But life around the water's edge is not as chaotic in summer. You can see the dragonflies, the zebra are just happily here, and nobody is competing over the water source. Oh, there we go. There's a waterbuck just coming in on the right-hand side, a nice big waterbuck bull. Oh my gosh, she's actually got quite a large display of horns. And it's so funny. Just the other day, I was saying to some friends how I haven't seen a waterbuck bull with exceptionally large horns. And I always remember when I was guiding at lodges through, out the years, seeing these huge bulls. But he was quite impressive. And then on an estate that my parents live in Hoedspruit in South Africa, I saw another big bull, and he was enormous. I was quite surprised. That's a younger male, so we can't judge him just yet. He's still got quite a bit of growing to do. Also just moving around slowly, and then of course the female's just popping up every now and then. She's munching on some very short grass. She's got But I do suspect that actually some of this vegetation around the waterhole might not be grass, but rather little herbaceous plants, which aren't always tasty to eat. And then we've got the two young waterbuck bulls just socializing. Even though they've got little horns and they're quite tall, they're still really young at heart and have got a long way to go before they reach adulthood. Well, at least that bull that walked past. I bet they looked at him in absolute admiration. And of course, little tussle, little jostle. That's probably the better word, right? Nothing too serious. It's almost like they know they're being watched. I'm also amazed, and let me know if you agree as to how these animals don't poke their eyes with their horns more often. Obviously not their own, but others. Like this is very gentle and it's nothing serious. Everybody likes to play around. It's a good way to release some pent up energy. And then, of course, for these young boys, it's even more important because, well, in a couple of years' time, it's not going to be so graceful butting heads like that. They will be competing for herds of females for mating rights. And then, of course, you got the zebra still in the background there, not doing too much, not kicking each other like we've seen in the drier seasons where they are less tolerant. Again, hangriness, I tell you, it changes you. And then Jambu Wantu Balu, you said prison ponies. Yeah, that's a common name that everybody calls a zebra, is prison ponies because of those black and white stripes. And a good old guinea fowl. Hello, helmeted guinea fowl. There's also some interesting plants off to the right. You might see them. They're quite spiky and brown. They sort of look like they've died. I'm going to take a stab at it and say it's one of the Datura species. It looks like they've got these spindly seed pods. I can't even English anymore. That's also a great start. Which is actually quite a toxic plant to have around. Not many animals eat it and also invasive. Okay, but now we're going to go to an area, seeing as though we've been speaking about animals fighting and competing through water. Let's head up to Kenya, one of my favorite countries, to the famous Oldonyo waterhole. There we go, a big elephant bull. Again, nice and calm, not too many animals around, so much water everywhere. And it looks like they've already fed on the vegetation that would have extended right up to the edge of this waterhole. But also it gets squashed quite a bit from the animals trampling around. So if you were thinking that someone's gone with a weed eater or a lawnmower and mowed around, that's not the case at all. I'd be surprised how quickly it happens, especially with the amount of animals moving into this area. And then Jess is not normal. You said that you've been covered in snow for the last few days in the northwest of England, and it's almost giving you whiplash to see so much greenery. Jess is not normal. I've never seen snow, so I would also have whiplash looking at all the white, beautiful snow around me. I know it's great for a couple of days, and then it tends to turn to sludge. But that's just one of those things. I probably would complain about it, but I can tell you right now, I would dive headfirst into snow that was hopefully deep enough. And there goes the elephant. That's fine. We could just have brief sightings of things today. I agree. It's still very early in January. We don't need to give ourselves away completely. And now there's nothing else here. Where are the birds and the butterflies that normally are out and about? There was a dove that flew past. That's a flight pattern you can also identify just about with your eyes closed. And also, doves have a very specific sound when they fly on by. Okay, now we're going to head back to Botswana to another area in the Magadi salt pans. So if I'm not mistaken, it's the Boteti River that we're in right now. I have to remember, did I go to Botswana last year? I did. I did go to Botswana. Sorry, for a moment, I forgot all the places I traveled to. There were so many. And we've got more elephants. And there you can see that little concrete cylindrical object in the middle of the two elephants. The elephant on the left, no, the elephant on the right, sorry, he's got its trunk wrapped around it where all the fresh water is coming out. That's quite an interesting way to protect a water pipe, because if an elephant can dig it up, it absolutely will. And having all that lovely, delicious water to drink. I'm actually going to try and check as we sit here. I want to have a look and see what the weather is doing in the salt, well, in and around the salt pan area. Now, this is one of my favorite words to try and spell is between Pan, which is NX, and then you've got Khadi salt pads. That's this entire basin system. Yeah, not an easy one to pronounce. And then, yes, I am 100% tongue-tied today. I was so flustered. I'm not even going to lie. I was flustered at the beginning of the show because I couldn't see what cranes they were. And I just I couldn't use my computer, couldn't do anything. It was super stressful. Let's check here. What happens if I do that? Okay, let's do... Okay. Okay, so it doesn't look like we're going to have too much rain coming in. This time of the year, it's always fun to watch the weather systems come through. Most of them come through from the east coast. You can see there's some big weather systems. I know the northeastern parts of South Africa are going to be experiencing lots and lots of rain. That might push through and head up to Botswana and give them a shower, but you also know how unreliable weather apps are, right? Look at the Ellie on the left-hand side, trunk up. I'm sure you're all saying there, he's smelling the air. That's exactly what he's doing. Maybe we can see, I don't know how zoomed in we are at the moment. I don't have control of these cameras, but I'd love to have a slightly wider view, if possible. You'll just see sometimes there is a little bit of a delay. Perfect. So it's going to come through momentarily. They also look like there's a couple of little birds flittering around as well. Oh, there we go. So a fair amount of water. And I love the big trees along the embankment. Not sure if this river system actually got enough rain for it to flow. I'll have to rely on all of you. You see, I missed out on a lot of winter this year because of being away so much. I feel so out of touch with all these areas, even though I've traveled to them many, many times. I have not been to this camp though, and it is definitely high up on my list as well. One of the natural selection lodges. I do actually travel to their lodges quite often. They are beautiful, amazing accommodation. The food is to die for, and of course, if you know me well enough, I'm all about the guides and how they guide, and they are wonderfully ethical and just filled with great information. Who of you sitting and watching right now would love to be here in person? I would. Can you imagine? Actually, can you imagine sitting up on the embankment just above the elephants, just quietly, without them even knowing that you're there? That would be unbelievable. That's so special. I was trying to look to see if there are any major pathways coming down this embankment, but I can't see any right now. But typically in an area like this, especially in a river itself, there'll be lots of entry and exit points, but they might have also washed away with a bit of the rain, and a lot of the vegetation actually could have covered up the tracks too. But it's always so impressive more in the winter months when you see these embankments and how animals are able to clamber up them. But let's change it up. I don't think these elephant bulls are going anywhere. They're enjoying the fresh water, and it's probably quite humid in Bots. I can see the big clouds building in the background. The same thing is happening here, so maybe they will have a little thunderstorm. Let's go to Jabulani to have a look at buffalo. I promise it's alive. Fast asleep, a really big buffalo bull and an oxpecker, getting into those nether regions, all those crevices where the ticks like to build up. Having a little scratch moving around. And I'm looking at the buffalo's horns. It doesn't look like he's got much of a tip at all. But perhaps he is a really old bull. I imagine if only there was a lion's head. I don't know if you can see it. If you look at the buffalo, you go straight up into the dense vegetation behind and you go to the right. It might just be pixelation on my side, but there's sort of a figure there. It's not anything. It's not an animal at all. But this is what we look for when we are looking for predators and when we are out on safari. And I was really hoping that that would have been something peering in. Maybe it is. Maybe, oh no, is it moving its mouth? Is it a kudu back in there? You're all going to have to help me because now, or was it grass moving? Okay, I'm making a fool of myself, but I'm really good at doing that. Jean Gale, you said it's so green. Everywhere is so lush. Look at how tall the grass is even in the water. And Kaora, you've said that you can't see the little birds, but you did hear a three-banded plover and a blacksmith lapwing. I feel like those two birds around any body of water are bound to be there. Not always, because I've obviously been to quite a few of them where that's not the case at all. And you come around the corner thinking exactly that, and then maybe a terrapin head. But this buffalo has come down to have a bit of a rest. Nice and cool, I suppose. I'd be worried about crocodiles. That's far too close to the water's edge for me. And I'm not sure if this is a really big water hole that has sort of just overflowed, which is great, and caused this lovely marshy area. And then just going back to being in the Mahadi salt pans where those two elephant bulls were just casually relaxing in the water. Dear NC, you said that you'd love to be there. Kaori, you also said you'd like to be there. Jess is not normal. So it's peaceful and summery. And Gordon J, you said you're ready to move there. Well, let me know. We'll jump on the same flight. My bags are already packed. Buffalo herd, I think, also wants to join. So something got its attention. Like I was saying, lying down for an animal is quite vulnerable. Now, if you look at this buffalo, lying right at the edge of the water, dense vegetation right behind it. I don't think I would have had my head flat down on the ground. I probably would have been sitting up a little bit and just keeping an eye out. However, there is an exception. With the oxpecker being there, it's a good security system. Oxpeckers are amazing to have. Of course, we know that they love to remove the ticks and parasites that they'll feed on from these buffalo, and they love to open up wounds as well. But the function of an oxpecker on any animal when it sees a predator is great. And that is one of my favorite favorite things to see when you're teaching people how to do bushwalks, for example. So when you become a trails guide or an apprentice trails guide, is once they start to learn how important it is to listen to what oxpeckers have to say. And, they take it with a pinch of salt in the beginning and they go, yeah, whatever, whatever, until they start seeing it over and over. Oxpeckers see us, they'll go, what are they alarming at? Well, it's us telling the buffalo, hey, we're also there. But if a lion or a leopard or anything else, or if the oxpecker just felt uncertain, it will make that drilling sound, and whichever animal will stop feeding for the most part and look around and just have a check to see that nothing's trying to get it. But this is such an old buffalo bull, just by how worn his bosses, or those tips of the horns have completely worn down. Even his boss looks so smooth. That's the middle section where the horns join. It's difficult to give an overall account of his body condition, It doesn't look too bad. It does look like his hips might be sticking out a bit. And then if you looked up into his spine, you can see his vertebrae a little bit. But with a bull of this age, he'll get a bit of a health kick. You know what it's like, beginning of January, right? We all start having those wheat grass juices and new year, new me. Not for the case in the buffalo, but he would have put on a little bit of condition with the burst of green grass and everything else that he would have fed on. Might be tough though to survive another year in the condition that he is in, but fingers crossed. But completely unperturbed, as we can see. And if you were an animal, there's a question for all of you that are watching. Please feel free to comment, because I get lonely sometimes. Would you rather sleep at night, or would you rather sleep as an animal during the day? And while you think about that, we're going to go to KwaMaratane and have a look at something that's not so nice. So it's a bit of a trigger warning, but it is nature. So if you're a little bit squirmish or sensitive, perhaps it's the time to go make a cup of tea. Gosh, we all know this little pathway. So just in front of these two Impala is a waterhole concealed by all this lush vegetation. And this, of course, is the time for the Impala lambs to drop. Most of the Impala lambs have dropped already, but there are a few little light lammetjies, as we say in Afrikaans, late lambs. And I've got some feedback about this young Impala lamb having an injury on its front legs. It doesn't help that it's now turned away. So we'll see. Let's see when it turns to mom. Oh, immediately. Did you notice its front right leg? Do you see how it's sort of bent where what the fetlock would be? Oh, that doesn't look too happy. It doesn't seem to want to put weight on it directly. Again, very difficult to see. It doesn't look like there's any like flesh wounds. But when you've got brand new legs, you've got to test them out. And you run around like an Impala lamb does. If you've been lucky enough to see how they gallivant all around, it is very easy to fall and hurt themselves. So just think about it. How many times when you're a kid specifically have you twisted your ankle, rolled your ankle, whatever you'd like to call it? Right? I've done that a few times. In fact, I think my mom called me a hypochondriac because I just used to do it so much. And when something like that does happen, it can cause an injury, it can cause swelling. Now, it's one thing for an adult to, of course, have it, but when you're a young Impala lamb, and there are lots of predators out and about, and you're not going to be able to be running at your full capacity, that's not great. However, these are injuries that they can recover from as well. They are so resilient, these animals. You've all seen the various social media platforms, and then, of course, here on Africam, how animals come back from what we would like grotesque injuries, that if we got injured that way, we would just die of an infection and they come back. So I'm quite curious, once it decides to move with the rest of the herd towards the water, we'll get a better indication. Okay, so it doesn't want to put lots of weight down on it. I can't tell you how big the swelling is, where exactly that pain would be, but that's a very common injury that we see amongst adult and young antelope. I mean, horses. For those of you that are part of the equestrian circle, then you'll know horses do this all the time. Constant swelling fetlock. There come all the little ones. See, look there. Springing and jumping around over uneven ground. No, I'm joking. Of course, they have to do this. There we go. That's a nice close-up. That leg actually looks a little bit deformed. Or is it because it's resting it? Sorry, I'm just trying to see. You can see it's completely resting it. Its hoof is actually curled underneath itself. So what we would call the fetlock. So you all know that antelope walk on their tippy toes. They actually don't walk on a flat foot at all. So almost where that is, it would be sort of the wrist, not the heel, really. There's a joint there. I don't know what you would. Why can't I think what you would call that? Someone tell me. What would you call that joint? I always refer to horses because it's so similar. And being an equestrian, we talk a lot about horse anatomy. So that round bit would be the fetlock. Yeah, there's some damage there. I wonder if there's some ligament damage or something because it doesn't seem to be getting a response. And almost the way that it's pulled, it's there. Yeah. Ish, maybe that's not good. That might be a hard one to recover from. Oof. Yeah, I don't think that's a wound itself necessarily underneath the foot. They do stepping stones, and sometimes that can cause problems, but it looks like there might be some damage on the between the fetlock and the hoof itself. Oof, that doesn't look too good. And Kuaru, looking out for me, spotting all the birds. You said there were a couple of Cape Glossy starlings. That's great news. There are also plenty of them. Funny enough, where I am in Hoedspruit, I'm in the middle of nowhere though. I don't see lots of starlings, a couple of them, and also not that many hornbills. For some bizarre reason, I've got both Retzes and white-crested helmet shrikes, barbets and tinkerbirds, like you cannot believe. A green wood hoopus also nesting in the garden. I've got all sorts of things except the regulars that we tend to see. So yeah, so a pity for this young Impala lamb, but such is life. It is treacherous, and one wrong step could be the end of your life. But let's see. It is young, it is sprightly, it doesn't look like it's lost too much condition. But now that we've seen these wonderful antelope and the little ones displaying how athletic they are, let's go across to Safari Hooks or back to Namibia to check out a couple of springbok. Aha! This is one of my favorite scenes, is seeing springbok in these arid areas. But again, it just doesn't look so arid right now. But I can also confirm that that's not grass. Most of it looks like, actually a lot of it looks like this Datura species. You get a variety of different species of them, but they grow really easily in disturbed or low quality soils. You could probably put them in concrete and they would grow. So Jess is not normal, just, just touching back on horses. And they're funny. So you said, yeah, horses are forever hurting their legs. They're silly things. You'd think that they'd learn to be careful at some point. No, but apparently not. I think horses enjoy creating vet bills for their owners. If you ask my dad that from when I was riding a long time ago, he would 100% back me on that. And then Mindy, you said you wonder if it's a deformity rather than injury. Absolutely. It could quite possibly be a deformity. It did look quite weird how it's that Impala. We're still talking about the Impala lamb, everyone. We are now looking at Springbuck, though, a youngster suckling. Good Lord, could you headbutt any harder? If I was mom, I would not be tolerating that. You would go thirsty. So yeah, it did look like it almost arced out to the side, but I don't know if it was because it was compensating. And I suppose we will never know. And that's what's the beauty of this, is that we don't always, well, most of the time we actually don't know the answers. We just say things and hope they're correct. No, of course, I'm just teasing. And off that little one goes. Come on, follow mom. No? Springbuck are really fun to watch. It's one thing seeing Impala bounding about in the open and the long grass. But when young Springbuck get a spring in their step, they really do take the show. And it is so beautiful and so flat. It does undulate the ground a little bit, but not as much. You can just watch them go forever, especially during dry season. But nothing wrong with these two individuals. Healthy, fat, lovely and lush. And just chewing away. A little bit of self-grooming for the little one on the left. It's always important. A skill that they need to learn quite quickly. Oh, yes, that's one thing. Mom's going to look after you and groom you. And if you find a friend within a herd, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. But it's important to be able to groom yourself too, to make sure that you keep those tick numbers nice and low. Who's ready for some early time? Sounds like there are a couple in South Africa at Madikwe in the mud. I think that is the sound of a generator, so please just ignore that loud. We might actually just drop the sound quite a bit. And Claire, who is helping me out at Africam, Kirst is on leave at the moment, really didn't give away that this elephant was completely covered in mud. My goodness, could it have been stuck anymore? There's no amount of 4x4 that could do what this elephant could. And this is something that I love. It's a stark contrast from dry season. For those of you that are interested in keeping screenshots, great. This is a wonderful moment actually to take a screenshot. And then what we can also do is you can also zoom out a little bit and take another screenshot. I always like to compare. I mean, this is a scene that we see quite regularly throughout the dry season, of course, much less grass. And just to show you how drastic the seasons are, and just reaffirming how wonderful it is that these animals are able to survive on almost next to nothing. They're grabbing some nice trunkfuls of long grass. Just easily stripping away. And this is nice. They're not quite covered in mud, so no real need to shake it off. And you wouldn't even know that there was a crocodile in here. This is what scares me the most, right? Oh, it looks so lovely, lush, wetland, ecosystem, absolutely beautiful. I'll go walking through there. Maybe we'll catch a catfish. Nope. So many crocodiles. And they'll still all be around here. It's unlikely that any of them really moved on. Maybe during the dry season before we did have our first rain. I can't tell you how much water is in here, but I know it wouldn't have been very much. Stepping out for a better reach. The humidity is just building. I don't think I can tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to look for the weather at Madikwe because it's actually not too hot there. It's about 27 degrees Celsius. That's not too bad. I think it might be warmer where I am, which is funny because typically the closer you get to the border of Botswana and Zimbabwe, it tends to get a lot more humid. And Jess is not normal. You said that it's an elephant spa day. I feel like when elephants could have a spa day, if they could have one every 5 minutes, they probably would. I'd be the world's greatest elephant. I'd just be completely covered in mud all the time, like a gargoyle. But a lovely big elephant bull with broken tusks. Well, especially that one on the right-hand side. But a lovely individual nonetheless. Oh, having to put some serious effort in there to get those feet unstuck. It's not far from the lodge now. It's actually right by the lodge fence line. And then Zygote, you said that that's a lawn mower. Elephants are really good lawn mowers. I think warthogs are even better. If you're looking for an even trim, I would go with warthogs. If you want that nice shortcut, sort of putting green look to it. Otherwise, zebras and wildebeest are quite nice when they come along. Elephants, oh, they do a patchy job. I think tree trimming or tree removal is their speciality. And then hippos. Oh my goodness. If you have a nice big lawn, you just put a couple of hippos out as well, and they mow the grass down nice and short. And they make good work of it too. The amount of food that these animals can consume in one go is just crazy. Okay, now we're going to a lodge that I have never been to before, but I'm absolutely dying to get there. Let's go check out the hide in Zimbabwe. Look at this is beautiful. If I'm not mistaken, is this in Wangi as well? I have to just double check. I think it is. Uh It is in Wangi. Yes, it is. Sorry, for a moment I glitched and I was like, where is this? Look at how lush this is. This is how diverse Wangi is. So we've got all these lovely termite mounds. There's big leadwood trees that you can see in the background. There'll also be some mapani. And then you get these lovely big open areas, like pure, beautiful big grasslands almost, where a variety of wildlife will live. As you can see, all of the warthogs coming through. Maybe they'll show you how well they can graze. Looks like the pig on the left with its tail up that was just sort of trotting away from us also has a bit of a limp. So limping animals are quite normal to see, but like I said, not like I said, like we were discussing, that Impala lamb, yeah, that's definitely not a great one. Kwaru, did you see the doves, the two doves fly past? It goes so quickly. So two, four. So four pigs. I think there was a fifth one that moved off. I don't see any piglets with them at the moment. This is also the time of the year, in and around Hoedspruit where we don't have traffic lights, uh, we only have stop streets. We don't even have any roundabouts or anything like that. We have to wait for the warthogs. And yesterday I was driving through town and I didn't take a picture. I should have. It was really funny. Just in front of these people's houses, just in a normal suburb in town, there was a couple of warthogs just grazing about with their little piglets. But even if there were piglets here, I don't think we could see them because half their bodies are covered with the grass. A great place for them to hide in plain sight because they're also on the menu, unfortunately, of lots of predators. And again, you've got a wall of trees in front of you. So much can hide behind that. And predators do have the upper hand now with the tall grass, being able to slink around it. But also this area of Wangi is very good for wild dogs. And as I stand here, there is an enormous cuckoo wasp. You probably will have to Google what it is, but they are iridescent green. They are stunning. Really big though, but scary. I don't like it when they fly near my face. I'm also standing outside now. Sorry. No, go away. I love you, but go over there. This is the problem. But let's go back to Tao to watch that a beautiful elephant in the last final minutes of the show. Today has been a pretty good day. We've seen a variety of different animals, sans the predators, but that's not a problem. One day I hope with the Africam shows that we can get so close we can start diving into insects. I know Trish would also love to do that with me. That would be phenomenal, actually. Can you imagine? And do some plants and do all sorts of things, but you never know how these cameras, they develop at a phenomenal rate. But this won't be the last of the elephant bulls. I'm sure there are a few. We're only just seeing a small section of Tao in case you have just started watching the Africam shows or even just the Africam cameras that are all over. Good inspiration if you are wanting to go on a safari. You can get a true understanding of what kinds of animals are around, or the ones that are around all the time for the most part. So there could also be lots and lots of other elephant bulls. You can see some small birds just moving around. There's normally a lot of crakes. There's something, it was something small that was also swimming at the back. Lots of Egyptian geese, also the ducks and teals that like to frequent this waterhole too. It's not even a waterhole, it's marsh. Where are the jacanas running across all this vegetation? A lot of people think that they just prefer like lotus flowers, water lilies, and things like that, but they'll happily take on any aquatic vegetation. So we should keep an eye out for them now, especially at this time of the year. Did anybody see any floating nests? That's something that we can also look out for. But that's all the time that we have today. I hope you enjoyed it. And I must apologize again for the glitches right in the beginning. But we've started the year, we've got them out of the way. And I hope you're looking forward to wild moments on Thursday. And I'll see you then because I'll also be hosting the show. Bye, everybody. Have a wonderful Tuesday.